Hi, it's Miss Becky from the Madison Library. I'm here today to share with you my dad, or Grandpa Bob's, second Ducky Daddle story. And it is about Ducky Daddle meeting his cousins from Massachusetts. I think you're going to really enjoy the story. And at the end, I'll come on and tell you how you can link to some coloring pages afterwards. Take it away, Grandpa Bob.
Hi, this is Grandpa Bob again, and I'm telling stories that I used to tell my grandchildren many years ago about Ducky Daddle. Ducky Daddle, as you may remember from the first story, looked like this. And he lived on a lake up in upstate New York that we had a place. And this is the lake in upstate New York. And if you remember in the first story, it was about Ducky Daddle learning to quack. And he went through an awful lot before he really learned to quack, but then he was so happy when he had. But I want to show you a little bit about where upstate New York is, where the lake is, because Ducky Daddle is going to, in this story, have some cousins come to visit him from another state. And so I want to show you where New York is on a map. This is the map of the United States. And you can see Mississippi is right here where this red dot is. That's where we are. And the lake up in upstate New York was way up here. And that's in the Adirondack Park of New York. And Massachusetts is over here. And that's where Ducky Daddle's cousins are. And they're going to be coming across from Massachusetts over to New York to see Ducky Daddle. So that's what this story is going to be about. And one other thing I might just show you in the trip that they're going to be making. This is just showing New York and Massachusetts. And the ducks are going to fly, the cousins are going to fly from Massachusetts on over to New York, but they've got to fly over these mountains. So it's a very difficult trip. They have to be big ducks in order to be able to do it. But these cousins are, so they're going to come over to see them. And on this particular day, Ducky Daddle and his mother were swimming in the lake and having a wonderful time. It's a beautiful sunny day. And all of a sudden, Ducky Daddle's mother looked up in the sky and said, "Look, there's two ducks up there flying around our lake." And she said, "I think they're your cousins." So they came down to land, and sure enough, they were Ducky Daddle's cousins from Massachusetts. And they came over to say hello, and Ducky Daddle's mommy introduced Ducky Daddle because they'd never seen him before, and told them he was meeting Daffy Diddle Duck and Dizzy Dean Duck, his two cousins from Massachusetts. And there were even more cousins still in Massachusetts who could come over someday to see him again too. But they were getting acquainted and having a wonderful time. And Ducky Daddle's mommy said to Ducky Daddle, "Ducky Daddle, can you say Massachusetts?" And Ducky Daddle said, "I'll try." And he said Massa, and he couldn't get the rest of it out right. He could try different things, but it just wouldn't come out Massachusetts. And he kept trying and trying, and he was getting more and more upset as he was doing it. And his mommy noticed that and said, "I think maybe now it would be a good time. We'll try one more time and then see if you can get it." So she said, "Say it again now. Say it for me, Ducky Daddle." And Ducky Daddle said, "Massa Fiddle Faddle." And he was very upset. So she said, "You go over and play with your cousins and have a good time in the water." So they were playing, and a little dust came by and landed near Ducky Daddle and made him sneeze. And he let out the loudest achoo that you could ever hear. And his mother heard it on the lake. And she said, "Ducky Daddle, come over here for a minute. I have an idea." So Ducky Daddle swam over to his mother, and she said, "Ducky Daddle, I think I know how to help you say Massachusetts." And Ducky Daddle said, "How?" She said, "Well, you just say Massa and then sneeze." And Ducky Daddle said, "Oh, okay, Mommy." And so he said, "Massa, sneeze." And she said, "Ducky Daddle, no, that's not what I meant. I meant for you to say Massa and then really sneeze." And Ducky Daddle said, "Okay, I'll try it." So he said, "Massa, achoo!" And she said, "Ducky Daddle, now say them together. Massa, achoo, Massa, choo." And he did, and she said, "Now add its on the end, MassACHOOsetts." And so sure enough, he could say it. And so she said, Ducky Daddle, you just said it. And Ducky Daddle said, I did? She said, yes, say it again. So he kept saying it, Massachusetts, Massachusetts. And she said, that's wonderful, Ducky Daddle, you've learned how to say it. So he went back over to play with his friends, and in a little while, Ducky Daddle's mommy said, it's time for us all to go for a swim around the lake. So Ducky Daddle's mommy led first, and then Ducky Daddle followed her, and they started going around the lake. And they looked, after they'd gone a little ways, they looked back to see what the cousins were doing. And the cousins weren't coming. So Ducky Daddle's mommy went swimming right back to them and said, what's the matter? Why aren't you with me? And Daffy Diddle Duck said, I'm trying, but every time I go to swim, I go backward. And Ducky Daddle's mommy said, well, that shouldn't be. Let me see what you're doing. And so she looked at what he was doing. And do you remember on the picture of Ducky Daddle, it showed him on the water with his feet under the water? And that's how he swims. And Ducky Daddle's mommy said, let me see, Daffy Diddle Duck, what you're doing. So Daffy Diddle Duck, instead of going like this, which would have made him go forward, was going backward like this, and that's why he went backward. So Ducky Daddle's mommy said, Daffy Diddle Duck, you try going like this and see if you can't swim with us. And sure enough, he could, and he was so happy. So they started out again. And Ducky Daddle's mommy went first, and then Ducky Daddle, and then Daffy Diddle Duck. But after a little ways, they remembered about Dizzy Dean Duck, and they didn't see him. So Ducky Daddle's mommy went back and said, Dizzy Dean Duck, why aren't you with us? And Dizzy Dean Duck was almost in tears, and he said, I'm trying so hard, but I can't get there. And she said, well, why not? And he says, I keep going in circles. And I've always done that, and that's why they call me Dizzy, because I get dizzy as I'm going in circles. So she said, well, let me see it under the water what you're doing. And so she looked and she said, oh, I know what you're doing. Instead of going like this, you're going like this with one and going the other way with the other. So that when you do that, you just go in circles. You've got to get them both going like this to go forward. So Dizzy Dean Duck said, ah, that looks good. So he tried it, and he was so happy that he could swim with the others. So they all went swimming around the lake. First, Ducky Daddle's mom, and then Ducky Daddle, and then Dizzy Dean Duck, and Daffy Diddle Duck. All of them together, and they swam around, and then after a while, Ducky Daddle's mom said, cousins, it's starting to get late. I see the sun is starting to go down a little, and you have to fly back all the way to Massachusetts tonight over the mountains. So I think you probably better get started. And they said, oh yes, I think we should. And so they said, as they were just about to leave, they said, I want to thank you to Ducky Daddle and his mommy for a wonderful time this afternoon. We've had a great time, and we want to come back real soon to see you. And next time we come, we're going to bring some more cousins for you to meet. And so they flew off, and Ducky Daddle and his mommy were very happy. They had a wonderful time. And that night when Ducky went to bed, he was so pleased that he'd met his cousins for the first time, and he was going to see some more of them very soon. And that's the end of the story.
Massachusetts! I love that story about Ducky Daddle meeting his cousins from Massachusetts, don't you? Well, right below this video are some links to some coloring pages. And the first one is a picture that looks a lot like Ducky Daddle, Dizzy Dean Duck, and Daffy Diddle Duck. And then there's another one that looks a lot like Ducky Daddle's mom teaching them how to swim. Well, I hope you enjoyed the story and you enjoyed the coloring pages, and be sure to be looking for Grandpa Bob's next story about Ducky Daddle.